Hey guys, Zoko here with another Modern Warfare video. Today I'm going to be going over some tips and tricks to help you improve and get better at the game. Before we get going, if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button along with the bell icon next to it to get those notifications whenever I post something new. I'm going for 50 likes with this video, so if you could also hit that thumbs up icon, I would greatly appreciate it if you contributed to that number. Alright, let's get this thing going. So since Modern Warfare's release, there has been a lot of complaining about how different it is in comparison to previous installments. There is no doubt at all that this is true. However, if you're complaining about people camping while just trying the same tactics you've used in past games with no success, I've got news for you. It's probably not going to get any better. There certainly is a different playstyle to this game. Caution is rewarded while aggression is punished severely. Alright, now I know this sounds dumb, but the first thing to do to improve is to play consistently. Not necessarily every day, but if you aren't playing consistently and really learning the maps and understanding the gun meta and how it will inevitably change with patches as they come out, you probably aren't going to improve very much very quickly. Being new to the game, it's important to try a lot of different weapons, but once you unlock the M4, and it doesn't take long to unlock, I would try and use that quite a bit because that gun is still one of the best in the game, and it will quickly allow you to become competitive in whatever game mode you are playing in. I am extremely fond of the AK, and I know quite a few people that use the M13. All are good guns, you just need to find out what works best for you. Everyone has their preference. Obviously there are people that are logging hours upon hours a day, and those guys are going to be hard to beat because they are learning every spot of every map. Every attachment is unlocked and recoil pattern of the weapons is mastered. They are learning the tendencies of what players may do in certain situations. This all could be tough to overcome, but it's not impossible. Also, there are some things you can really only dial in while playing consistently, like learning your sensitivity. This cannot be understated. Learning your sensitivity is paramount in playing a first-person shooter. You need to have it low enough to make minor adjustments, but high enough to in case somebody comes from an angle you didn't expect, you can compensate for that and flick over to them. And simply put, the more you play, the more used to your sensitivity you get. And whenever you make any adjustments, you need to stick with it for a couple of hours to really see if it works for you or not. Most people are very close to what they need and only need to make some minor changes. Just keep playing and tweaking it as needed. There is no secret sensitivity. You just gotta find what works for you. One of the biggest complaints about this game is the large amount of camping involved. To be completely honest, I think this is significantly overblown, and you simply have to change your tactics to compensate for it. Learning the common angles is one way to combat campers. Now this is easier playing on maps like Shoot House where people hold up in only a few spots in comparison to other maps, so pre-aiming an angle as you peek a corner is fairly easy. But if you are playing Ground War, and there are 20 angles to worry about coming out of a door, it is significantly harder. So maybe you try and bait a shot to find out where the tracer came from. Or if little Johnny just ran out and got torn to shreds, maybe go a different direction. I mean, to be honest, at times you should hold an angle, and camp, if you will. Because if you have the advantage in holding the objective, having more points, the pressure is on them to do something to overtake you. Playing loose and running around works for some people, but we aren't all Shroud and can make that work. Most people get punished for that type of play, which is where all the whining stems from. And I'm not saying you should only camp or only run around, but you should understand when to do both. Something I've noticed that is pretty effective is pre-firing spots and baiting a peek. Now these are two different tactics, so let me explain the difference. Let's say you're having a gunfight with a dude in a window and he goes back behind the wall. So often players love to re-peek, and it's usually after about 2 or 3 seconds. So keep holding that angle and after a couple seconds burst fire a bit and you may catch him coming back into the window. This works more often than you realize. Another thing you can do is if you're shooting into a window you know people are in. Let's say you expend half of your magazine to keep them from peeking the window as people move up. You know, teamwork and all. Don't expend all of your ammo. Instead, stop shooting with some left over, and they may think you are reloading. You would be surprised who sticks their head out a window that was just filled with gunfire. Another thing you'll notice is some people are just better at certain game modes than others. And this leads to another tip. Stick to one game mode for a time. Really learn the ins and outs of it. You may dominate in headquarters, but be dominated in any sort of deathmatch. That's okay. Understanding your shortcomings will allow you to better understand what you need to do to improve and get better at the game. Be critical of yourself. If you think you are the best player ever and are constantly on the bottom of the scoreboard, you're probably just lying to yourself and not going to improve. A major thing to learn, especially for a chaotic game mode like Ground War, is really understanding how to read your radar. Your radar gives you a ton of information, and being able to glance at it and quickly understand the vulnerabilities to your location and how to compensate that will be a massive help. Maybe a buddy was watching your back but got killed without making a call. Your radar will give you that information. Those friendly blue dots you can see through walls and skulls for recent teammate deaths are also incredibly helpful in understanding the current dynamic of the battlefield. Something that is pretty dumb that I am guilty of is spending too long aiming and walking without making sure I have cover nearby in case I start getting shot. This is a newbie mistake that I had to overcome when I started playing. If you're out in the open and aiming down your sights, you may get one kill, but you are almost certainly going to be traded out without another against any decent opposition. Everyone turns to look towards gunfire in this game, and if you're not spotted when you're strolling through the field, you will be when you take your first shots. I briefly mentioned this earlier in the video, but a big help as you start to play is mastering the recoil pattern of the guns you are using. You may notice that when you are shooting constantly, there is a pattern that your weapon takes. Like up and to the right, for instance. This type of pattern would be compensated by pulling down and to the left with your mouse or joystick. And it's not the same for every gun. Learning the different patterns as you go through the game will set you apart from your competition and truly set you on the path to being an excellent player. Also, don't peek corners by mounting. Now, I'm sure there is some situation where it may be better to do so, but generally it is better to mount cover after earning the angle, meaning you know nobody is there and you know there are players coming to you. You would do this in headquarters, or maybe the closest objective to the enemy in domination, or a bomb site you just planted at in search and destroy. The problem with mounting a corner is you are suddenly seeing a lot of angles all at once. It's simply too much information to take in and have appropriate reactions to. Now, if you stay aiming down your sights and slowly peek farther back, you will actually see the enemy sooner. If you peek while very close to the wall, they will likely see your leg and maybe shoulder before you actually see them. So peeking closer to a wall is more advantageous to the person already holding the angle, whereas peeking further back exploits the peeker's advantage you may hear about when playing online shooters. This is knowledge brought over from other tactical shooters, but I know it's the same in this game. Now, we are really only talking about a fraction of a second, but in a situation requiring fast twitch reflexes like clearing a room, being able to clear as much as you can see before bursting through just gives you that much more of a chance to survive. Peeking angles slower and more methodically is much more rewarding in this Call of Duty. Make sure to clear corners when coming into rooms and really start to learn those common spots. When you find a spot that gets you a ton of kills, make sure to check that when you come back around to it. Someone else may have learned the same thing. There is such a low time to kill in this game, so making a mistake could mean your death. I think that makes it a tad more realistic. I mean, it's still Call of Duty, so people are going to just jump around corners and spray you down when they know you are there to get that peeker's advantage. But overall, I think it's a step in the right direction. A lot of people are complaining about the direction this game has gone, but I actually like it. I think it makes for smarter players and punishes the single-celled organisms that run around spraying while talking to other people in the background of their house on an open microphone. This one is for you snipers out there, and it is extremely important. When you're aiming through your scope, your lens glints off of the sun literally no matter where you are. Kinda silly, but it's the mechanic within this game to counter snipers. So if you're a rifler, be mindful of those shiny lights off in the distance. And if you're a sniper, maybe only scope in when you have a target you are getting ready to shoot, instead of staying scoped in to find one. I hope you have found some of this advice helpful, and things will no doubt change as new patches come out, guns are nerfed or buffed, and people figure out just other quirks of the game. If you guys have any tips that I missed, feel free to leave a comment down below. I greatly appreciate you watching my video and be on the lookout for more Modern Warfare videos. Have a great day.